Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, and we'll be starting our talk show. Manisha, thanks for joining us this afternoon. So I'll be going through the first email. The topic for the day is relationships and effective communication in relationships. So that is a very important topic because there's a lot that happens amongst relationships. There's a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions that we'll be getting into while we are dealing with our loved ones and the ones that we actually care for. So all of our relationships have got a significant impact through the effective communication that we make with them. So with that, I would want to know what happens here and what sort of issues our users are going through. I'll be reading through a couple of questions. I'll be going through the first question that we have got. Interesting question. Hello, sir. I'm in love with a guy since 3 years. We're happy together, but my parents are not accepting my love because of a caste feeling. When they come to know that I'm in love with him, they showed me hell. Even my family relatives, they're forcing me to marry another guy. I want to wait until he will settle down. They're torturing me. Can you suggest what we should do, please?
Sure. So this is, I think that's a very common issue, and considering it is coming from a student, I feel that the major concern here would be that perhaps the parents are still not confident enough for them to be able to decide very well for themselves. And that could be, so yes, there are caste biases in the society, and families do adhere to that a lot of times. But above that, the core issue could be that maybe because they feel that she doesn't know better for herself, and that is the problem. So, and that is perhaps also because she would also be the family would also be feeling that what if this guy doesn't settle down and they choose to get married, and therefore they are pressurizing them. I think sitting down with your parents and talking to them about this will definitely give you perspective. And of course there are ways. Now the problem is that when children try to communicate with the parents, they already have this block in their mind that our parents are not going to understand. And because she already has this experience, that they have created problems for her, then definitely she would feel even more reluctant. But then I think choose one person that you are close to, and it could be your mother or your sibling or some other elderly member in the family, who could actually have patience to hear you out, right? And then if you are really certain about it, about the relationship, about having a good future together, then you need to have that expressed appropriately to the family. Give them the reasons why you really like this person, and give them the reasons why you think that this is going to be a good alliance, right? And above all, I think it is most important that you also tell them that you are not just focused on the relationship. Because a lot of times the reason parents have these biases about the choices kids are making for their life partners is because they just feel that, oh, this is just a passing affair, a romantic idea in the head, and they would just not be able to face the realities of the world. So if you know what you're doing, and if you know that this is the right relationship based on so many reasons, you list those reasons out to your parents. Like you said, you want to wait for this guy to settle down. Share with your parents what this guy is capable of and what he can do in life, and how mature he is, or how keen to grow as a person he is, right? Because of course both of you are pretty young, and there's a long way to go ahead in life. I think if you would have the right perspective first with yourself, and then be able to put it across to the parents, right? I am sure that they would try to understand, right? Yeah, and then if that doesn't work out, there's always some person So because there's always a way, so there would always be some person who would be able to, put across. If you feel that this is still a difficulty and they're not able to break free from the biases of the caste and stuff, then you give it time, instead of pushing it forward that no, I'm only going to marry this guy or revolt. Take time, because you also need time to complete your education. There would be a couple of years for you to also settle down in terms of education and then finding a career. So by that time, right, and gradually keep on, from time to time, keep on putting it across to them in a subtler way. And I suppose that should help.
Thank you, Manisha. That was so thoughtful and quite clear. But I've got a couple of questions here. Let's say when we are emphasizing on the right communication with parents, should that communication also go back to a communication between these two youngsters who've been in a relationship and trying to make this happen? Because when that communication passes on in between these two people and then gives a clarity on what they're doing and gives or instills more confidence, will that also impact on the parents' ability to understand the
Definitely,
relationship?
sir. That's what I was saying, that, first you have that clarity in your perspective, and that will not come because relationship is a two-way process. So, I mean, this is very rightly, highlighted by you, that definitely these two need to first have, be on the same page, as we say it. And then from there, they could then take it forward to each one's parents, and then, and sometimes if suppose the guy's parents are understanding enough, they could perhaps convince her parents over the long run. But as of now, the most important thing is that they be on the right a track, they be on the same page together as a couple. And then also focus on not just the relationship part of the whole thing. They need to look at the other dynamics also, like, the kind of career they're going to have, the kind of life, what are the plans for, the kind of life they would like to live. So if they are all clear about these things, then putting it across to the parents will obviously, they'll be more confident in doing that.
But India being a casteist system, a country where we give a lot of emphasis on caste and caste-related affinities. Now, in your experience, have you come across any cases? I'm only asking this question to give more confidence to our users on how effective communication can really change their beliefs or their parents' beliefs. Have you come across parents who have, with good communication, had given up their affinities towards their caste and supported their kids?
So I would actually, this question reminds me of a story that our professor had shared when I was graduating. So one of our professors, he was from, in Delhi University, he was from a small village in Orissa, and he was from the Brahmin community there. And in his younger days, he had fallen in love with a girl of a different religion altogether. So she was a Christian and he was a Hindu Brahmin from a village in Orissa. And you can just imagine that, how the village communities work. So basically, this guy, when he tried to convince to his father, he just said that, if you want to go ahead and marry this girl, I'm actually going to, not take you and, not give you my name and all those things. So there was this whole dramatic situation that happened. And so a professor, he told us that he did a simple thing. He said, I am going to marry this girl because I know why I'm getting married to this girl. But I'm not going to get married to her without your approval. So I'm going to wait till the time you approve. And it took them like 7 years from what he told us. It took them 7 years to convince both the families. And ultimately, because they were not getting married to anybody else, and they knew what they were doing. So they were both, focused on their education. They pursued their higher education. They didn't derail from, facing what real life is all about. Right. So they continue to do what they were supposed to do, pursuing a career, doing a job, and yet taking care, being part of the family system. and playing their role in the family, and just not getting married to anybody else. That was the thing that they did. And definitely, apart from that, also my own sister, she's gotten married to a different, caste. And my parents, my father was actually, not very convinced about the whole thing. And so I tried to convince him. So because my sister couldn't directly convince him because of the whole thing, so I pitched in, and I tried to, give them certain points as to, this is what she is like, and she knows what she's doing and stuff. So we could definitely, communication can definitely play an important role. The way you are communicating, if you tell them that they do not understand you, then that is what you are putting across. That's what you're going to get back in return, right? If you just open up your mind and say that this is how I feel, and this is how I think, and I request you to consider this. So instead of making a demand, which usually people do in relationships, be it between parent and children, be it between couples or friends. So instead of coming across as, putting a demand to the other person, instead of that, if you would try to communicate, like if you're asking for something, make it appear like a request. Or if you're trying to put across a point, don't make it appear like it's a blame on the other person or the way they think, right? Because everybody has their own rights to think differently from us. So, and they have their own needs and desires as well. So we need to put all that into context when we are having a conversation with another person.
Thank you so much, Manisha. I'm also thinking, does this communication, just like the way we are trying to talk about a relationship, now this relationship might not be just about trying to convince our parents about our love interest, but it is also about most of the times a career choice as well. Because what we have seen is all of us, including myself, who've been a victim of being an engineer for so long that I couldn't really use the basics of engineering anywhere. All of us, we go through a lot in trying to convince our parents in our career choices. So how much of a distress are you seeing from the clients that are approaching you because of these reasons, where they're not able to effectively communicate what they want in life to the parents? Because most of the times our parents' influence plays a pivotal role in our career choices as we grow up.
Definitely. So the career choices, I see, like, especially in today's time, the issue about the relationship factors are far lesser than that of the career, because, we have n number of options in careers nowadays. So it isn't that how it traditionally used to be, that you become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or a teacher or something in those lines, the popular career choices. Now you have, like, in every field of career, you have multiple career choices that you can make. And then another important fact is that a lot of times the gap of communication is because, again, parents think that children do not know, right? So if they put across the reasons why, or when they're saying something, that okay, I want to be, let's say for example, I want to be a psychologist. Why do you want to be a psychologist? So, because there are so many people out there who really need my help, and that would be a very vague reason for a parent to understand, right? So if you tell them that psychology is a vast field, and there's so much that I can learn and do, and of course while doing, contributing to a social cause, there are opportunities of doing well in life. And then you give them all the reasons why, a particular stream that you're choosing in field of psychology, because let's say psychology also has multiple choices, right? So if you give them all the reasons as to why you're choosing a particular field, and what is it, if you've done your research around, okay, this is the career, this is how I'm going to grow in this particular career, this is the kind of amount I'm going to make in, in these many number of years. And if you give them that, and give them that detail, about the research you've done about your career, and why do you feel that you are fit. So what are your traits that are suitable for the career, right? What are the traits that you hold that will be suitable? So if you put it across in that manner, in an organized, structured way, I'm sure they would be far more considerate to, you know, hear you out and consider the option also.
Thank you, Manisha. I already see someone raising their hand to talk to you, and they're quite excited about this. Subhan Sheikh, would you want to talk?
Yes, sir.
Please
Thank
go
you, sir.
ahead.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi Subhan, how are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. What about you?
Good.
Ma'am, my question is, in any relationship, we should go with the person's feeling now.
Okay, so if
I
I'm
mean,
understanding it correctly, you're saying that in any relationship we should give value to other person's feeling also. Is that what you're
yes,
saying?
yes, ma'am. And one more thing is, whether we have to listen about our mind or our heart in any relationship.
Okay. Now
It's
this
little youngster's question. I surely understand where he's coming from. So, yeah, he's just come
okay.
out with that question, but many of them would actually have this question.
Right. So, okay. So here we are focusing more about the relationship aspect. So I'd put communication aside for a moment, and I'd just tell that, you know, when you are in a relationship, Subhan, then most important thing is valuing emotions, but equally for both of the people. So it is not just that you have to only value your partner's emotion or only value your emotion. Value emotion of them as well as yourself. Okay. And then the second part that you know, you said was that should I listen to my heart or my head? You know, if you are clear, okay, then the heart and the head are going to be aligned. So what you're doing, if you're certain about it, then they are going to be aligned. So what you need to first figure out is that if this is definitely what I want to do. You know, a lot of times we let's say when we're young, and if suppose and I'm not making any judgment, sometimes you know, people who start their relationships in their school days as early as, you know, 8th 9th standard also, they have like reached far, you know, they've grown old together. So that's you know, that is another aspect. But a lot of times it's more about, you know, liking someone when you are in a teenage period, and when you like someone and you begin to feel that romantically inclined towards this person, uh, initially you're only looking at the, you know, the romantic feelings that are associated with the whole thing. Then gradually you would come across this person's you know, personality traits which may be different from yours, right? And that is where the conflicts, the internal conflicts happen. So if is this what you are questioning about, or is it something else that you would want to be more specific about?
Yes, ma'am. Like if we choose our career as something, and my parents and somebody else relatives say that to took my career as software, like that. That time, what we have to choose?
No, I'm sorry, I did not understand. You're talking about the career here, like making a career choice?
Of course, ma'am.
Okay, okay. All right. So I think we kind of misinterpreted the whole thing as a romantic relationship. I'm sorry about that. Okay. So if you're coming to a career choice, which is again a very important relationship that we have hold, you know, for a very long period in our lives. So if you are making a career choice, Subhan, and your family is not agreeing to what you would choose, like I said a while ago, you need to give them all the reasons why you're choosing something, right? A lot of times what happens is that we feel that, okay, I'm interested in a certain thing, okay? And because this excites me. But what we do not know at that point in time is what is the background that's going to happen into that field, right? So like when people say that they would like to be a doctor, and they do not know the reality of what it is to be a doctor, how much effort. And it's not just limited to cracking the entrance exam or clearing those 5 years in college. The real job of a doctor begins after those 5 years of education. So what we nowadays, it's been very popular in the US, but it is now becoming very popular in India as well. People are going ahead and getting certain mentorships or certain internship programs with companies, right? Or finding professional mentors in a certain stream that they would like to pursue, and spend time with them, talk to them, join them at their workplaces, see how the work is actually done, and then get the the reality of it, and then evaluate as to how much you would fit in, considering all the other traits that you may have, right? So like if a person has a certain trait, let's say, okay, for example, if a person is um, very good with dramatics in school, okay, and they feel that they would like to be an actor, right? Now being an actor is not just limited to acting only,
Yes,
okay?
ma'am.
Or being a chocolatier is not just limited to only making chocolates. You would need to understand sales and marketing, and how to brand your product, and all those aspects would need to be taken into consideration. So only an opportunity like an internship or having a mentor in the same field would be able to give you that opportunity to understand it inside out. And once you're sure that yes, this is definitely what I would like to do, and then when you go back to your parents and say it with conviction, then I'm sure they would be willing to listen to you.
Thank you.
And probably, Subhan, adding to what Manisha said, your conviction, your strong conviction, your confidence into what you're doing, and your background research into why is it going to be your future choice of career would also give you that strong points that you would need to talk to your parents. Your confidence of that communication that you need to put back to your parents will go up only when you have done your homework in understanding the career that you're wanting to take. Because parents for sure are going to be jittery or confused around your not so popular choice of career. Let's say if you'd want to become a photographer, or if you'd want to become a painter, or if you'd want to become a radio jockey. Now, all of these are, yes, there are careers, there's a lot of success around it. At the same time, as an average parent that we are all coming from, the average parent mindset is always concerned around your future and your career. See, they've already lived
Yes.
their life. They're only concerned about how you are going to make up your life and be successful in life. They're concerned about you not going through the same hardships that they have gone through. So you'll have to
Yes.
understand from their perspective as well, while they are trying to put a block in front of you and saying that you cannot do this. That is only because they love you and they are trying to give you a good future, a future that they think is right for you. But this is where you'll have to do your homework before you put your choice in front of your parents. And that homework should be all about understanding your career and trying to show why do you fit into that career. What is that special interest or talent in you that will make you stand out in the career choice that you're going to make. If you can prove that to your parents, if you can sit down with them, show them the work that you've already done, let's say the fantastic photographs that have already been published in some journals, or some paintings that you have got accolades for, or some skit that was going viral on YouTube. Now, all of these are those things that will help you talk to your parents and convince them to give you that career choice. You can be a chef and wanting to become a chef, cook them every day and make them eat the delicious food that you think you're expert on, and talk to them on all of these sorts.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Manisha. And before we go to our next question with Manisha, I would want to remind you guys that you got to put forward your hand. Raise your hand if you want to talk to Manisha directly, or also you can put up your messages either to me or Manisha that will be addressed while on the call. So I'm going to go to our next question. And this question is about, it reads, "Hello, sir. I'm so sad and depressed these days. There are many problems at my home. this is due to COVID, and my family's only income has stopped. We already had many debts, and now this. I'm a girl, and this was my last year. Probably she is trying to say that this is her final year of studies. I had two backlogs, but I don't know if the government will promote me or will conduct exams. I don't know what to do next. Should I move to Hyderabad and start learning any skill or language, or what I don't know? Sometimes I feel very sad. I wish I was a boy. At least I would have started something to help my dad. Just give me a few advices on my career and motivate me. Right.
Okay. So,
What
but
you,
then,
Manisha?
right. I feel that some information, if we would have got a little more information about what she's doing, what she's pursuing in her graduation, we would have been able to address, specific careers around that. However, before we go on to the detail of it, I'd like to, highlight a point wherein she says that if she would have been a boy, she would have been able to do something and help the family. I don't think you need to be a boy to be able to help the family or do something before you complete your graduation or have a really solid career. I suppose what is most important is the way, the resources that you have, based on that how you could contribute. And I'd share a personal story here. So I come from humble background, and I could never even ask like pocket money from my father, because I understood that I'm the eldest of the three siblings, all girls. And we had, obviously, like I said, it was a humble beginning. So I told my mother that I think I am, because I was in 12th grade, I said I think instead of asking for the money, I would rather be doing some coaching classes, right? So I started teaching some younger kids around my house, and I started to get some pocket money out of that. Then I decided that I would like to, instead of pursuing a full length college, or instead like to also work along with that, and be able to take care of my, and the extra expenses that we would have, right? So the basics were definitely met by my father, but for all the extra expenses that we wanted to do, I thought I would be better able to help myself and my siblings and my mother in that part, by making some money. So I started to work part-time in in a very popular pizza restaurant, and then along that with that, then later on I started to work in a BPO. I've been working like right after school, and even after that, even after school, like in between, before I could start my graduation, I did some summer job, and so I continue to do that. So there is always way. If you're looking for options, you would find that there would be some right ways of obviously by the right means, you would be able to make some contribution for your family, irrespective of the gender you have. Okay. Now the second part is that you said that should I go ahead and do some language course. Now that is again, that's if you're saying you're already having financial difficulties, I see that as something that you would invest into, and if it doesn't give you results, that might put extra stress onto you. So you have to be very certain about what you would like to do. So sir, it's a request that I have. If you could revert to this person asking for more details, or ask them to connect to me directly on the emails, I would be able to give some guidance based on considering all aspects of the situation.
Sure, I'll do that. I'll reply back, and I'll also ask the particular person to get in touch with you.
Right.
Probably she may need
And
some help in talking to her parents and setting up the right expectations.
definitely. So that's what I was coming to. So, also because you're feeling depressed, it's important that you talk to someone about this. You don't want to talk to your father or your mother about it. Maybe have, like, if you have a sibling, then you discuss or just express yourself to your siblings, share what you feel, share your emotions, or talk to a friend about this, at least put it out there. Don't keep it inside you. Talk to someone and let it out, so that, and also get a different perspective from another person, right? So you don't have to feel depressed about it. See, the COVID situation has impacted a lot of people, irrespective of the socioeconomic background they are from, right? So considering that this is the worst of time, and think thoughts like those, that would not help. You just need to think that this is going to be a passing thing. Yes, these months are of difficulty, but these are going to pass, and better days are going to come. So if you are able to look at life with a little bit of optimism, that is definitely going to also help you figure out more ways of what you could do in life. Okay, and please share the details, and I'd be happy to help.
Thank you, Manisha. I'll get back to her and I'll also inform her about what you have advised. So I've got another request here, and this is an issue that someone would want to discuss with you. It says, "Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. There's a guy who loves me since 5 years, but I have no feelings for him. But he's a nice guy. If I accept him, I won't be myself. I don't want to reject and hurt his feelings. Still, I shared my version saying I cannot love him. He's still waiting. What do I do? How do I communicate?"
Okay, that is again a very tricky sort of a situation you are in, because of two reasons. One is the guy is likes you a lot and he's invested into this, but also because you do not know how to say no, which is more problematic than the first part. Because a lot of times people think that, oh, I don't want to take the blame of hurting someone, so I cannot say no to this person, because if I say no, this person might be hurt, and I wouldn't want to accept that. So I feel that it is important that you learn to set your boundaries right. If you are not happy in a relationship, understand this. If you're not happy, this will not give any good result either to you or to him, if you still be in a relationship or get into a relationship with him in the future. If you don't feel the same way, express it to this person clearly, without hurting him. So instead of putting it across as, you do not like him, say that, this is how I feel. Okay, because when you say that I don't have these feelings for you, then he might just feel that there's something lacking in him. You could rather say that I do not have these feelings as of now. Okay, and if I do have them, I would be able to share it with you if you are my friend, right? So try to not hurt, like when you don't want to hurt a person, try to be very careful with the statements also, because I think that's what's stopping you from telling him off. So instead of making it appear like he is being rejected, you have to make it appear like this is how you feel and this is what you think about the whole situation. Take the whole ownership of the communication, right? So and not making it appear that he is lacking somewhere, and he would be then more open to understanding the perspective that you also have. And obviously if you don't like a person, or don't feel the same way that you can reciprocate the same emotion to the person, is always right to put it across clearly to the other person, because otherwise it may just complicate the whole situation for you as well as that person.
Also, with your permission, I would want to add a little more here, Manisha. The topic of yesterday's discussion was emotional regulation. And it says we should stop taking blame for things that we cannot control.
Right.
So we cannot blame ourselves for something that is not in our hands. Now, I'm sure I have understood from her question that she's not able to control his feeling for her if she rejects him. Now that is impossible. We cannot control someone else's opinion or someone else's emotion about our actions, and that should not actually decide what we should be doing. So I'm sure Rashil understand that she has very limited control over how he reacts, but she should be more concerned about what she wants to do about this particular situation rather than what the other person wants to do about it, because it's your life at the end of the day.
Definitely. And this is a two-way thing. A lot of times people think that, if they're rejecting the other person, they would be hurting them, and they don't clearly know, because they might, do something inappropriate because of that hurt. And so it's both the people are actually going to be in a far more difficult situation than they actually are in. Because if you're not clearly communicating, this person still has hope, right? That, okay, maybe not today, but she does have a liking, because she's not saying it off right away, she's not putting it off right away. So the longer you continue that, the longer he will be invested in, and the deeper he'll get invested into this. So you cannot take the blame of him liking you and you not liking him back. You cannot take that blame, one. And you cannot also, like, even after you say no to him, you don't have to take that blame as well, because like sir rightly said, it is not in your control. How I feel about someone may not be necessarily how another person feels about me, right? So you have to accept that, different people will have different feelings in different intensities. And when we are in a relationship, whether it's romantic, whether it's family, or even as friends, someone, and the other person has started to like you differently, even then, you cannot control the other person's emotions. But putting it across clearly that this is how I feel, and this is only what I can reciprocate to. Okay, if I can just reciprocate to feeling, I'll just reciprocate to the feeling of friendship and not anything else. Then that is what you need to focus on. Okay, and put it across clearly, so that both of you are not too hurt and things do not get complicated in the long run.
Thank you, Manisha. I've got my last question for the day, and this is sent again via an email. It says, ma'am, I don't talk much or even open my mouth in front of relatives and family friends. I don't even prefer staying at that place. But on the other hand, when it comes to professional life or at college, at home, I'm a total extrovert. I can even take the lead to build a conversation. I don't know what type of a person I am. I don't get it why I am two poles apart. My relatives and family friends say I don't have a mouth, whereas all the others say I have the biggest mouth. Can you please help with this?
Sure. This appears to be two different people if you read this. I think that's what he is also concerned about, that, he's behaving very differently in these two environments.
It's a
Now,
her, for our information.
okay,
It's
it's her.
her.
Okay, I'm sorry. So she is behaving very differently in these two different environments. And so this does speak volumes about the environment. Okay, somewhere, we need to understand that perhaps the communication in the family is limited because of certain reasons, certain impressions that she has stored up in her system, right? So if she's stored up as that, if that, these people are not going to understand me, or they're not going to interact the same way that I am interacting. And these could be multiple reasons. Either you feel you are not good enough to speak, participate in their conversation, or you feel that they feel that, or perhaps they are not good enough to participate in your conversation, is what you feel. Then you would need to, reconsider the whole option of what you are, feeling and thinking when you are in that environment. And then, come to understanding of that, to be able to shift it. So first you understand how you're feeling, what are you thinking in that environment to not speak. Because when we're with friends, so here's a clear, exact difference, that when we are with friends, we feel that, okay, we feel much safer. We feel that, okay, they would also know as much as I know, or maybe, they'll know one thing more and I'd know something else more. And we'll feel as equals at large. Okay. And so there's a comfort, and therefore we are able to express ourselves better. So we do not fear judgment. In an environment where we feel the fear of being judged, we would not be able to communicate appropriately. So first, you need to understand what are the reasons that is stopping you. Because if you are a chatterbox, that means you do have a capacity to be a chatterbox. Okay, so that's not the problem. The problem is that there could be just two things. One is that you do not need to talk to communicate how you feel, and so it's a very, very comfortable relationship, right? But otherwise, which mostly is the case, is that you're not comfortable in the environment. You do not click with the people in that environment, and therefore you do not have much to talk about with them. So you have to first figure out what are the reasons that are stopping you, and if they are valid reasons. Okay, if you feel that, okay, you would like to talk about, let's say, physics or quantum physics, for example, and they would have no knowledge about it, then obviously that communication cannot happen, right? But if you feel that there is a problem, that you cannot even express your emotions to your parents or to your siblings, if you're feeling happy or sad or angry, and you cannot express those intimate emotions to them also, then that needs to be worked upon. And for a healthy communication, it's very, very important that we are able to be put across a point without the fear of being judged about it, right? So that's another way, that's an art, to be able to do that. Because a lot of times, when I say that I wouldn't like to talk to you, okay, for example, I wouldn't like to talk to you would mean to the other person that you feel they are not worthy of you talking to them, which will obviously impact their self-esteem, right? And it could be vice versa though, but you have to be able to put it across that I do not feel like talking to you right now, okay, because I am feeling low, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm slightly disturbed. So if you're putting it across clearly as to why you're not doing or doing a certain thing, or why you're feeling a certain thing, if you take ownership of that, then you would be able to strike better conversations with people around you.
Thank you, Manisha. There's an interesting question though on the chat, and I would like to take that question for a brief while, and then we'll move on to a real concern that someone has put up on the chat again. So this question says, it's by Sunanda. I'm an engineering student of electronic and communication stream. I want to become a successful engineering student. So can I get some tips on that? Sunanda, I would want to give you a clarity on your question today. The clarity on your question is you lack clarity on what is really meant by success. So success is perceptive. Success is not the same for everyone. I mean, success can be money. Success can be you inventing a product, or success can be you trying to make a good family. So all of these are success. If you're talking about success as an electronics and communications engineer, you should probably be preparing for your MTech, because you would want to have a good name for yourself in the electronics field, where you would be able to do more research. You'll be able to grow as a good engineer, because as we grow up, our success definitions keeps changing. While in our school, we might be told by our parents that you got to get into a good engineering college. It can be an IIT or it can be an NIT, and that at that age is our success, to get into a good engineering college. Once you get into that engineering college, your success might be to score good marks throughout the semesters and emerge as one of the best students of the college. Now that is a success to that age. But if you want to understand success by being an electronics and communications engineer, you should realize that you should have a particular outcome in your mindset about what your success is really going to be. Is it a success about you being a successful individual? Is it a success about you being a good engineer who would be able to invent something or who would be able to do phenomenal work in your field of work? Or is it a success about you becoming a family person and trying to give the most comfortable life for your family members and for your be a good friend to your friends? So you please will have to gain more understanding of what is real success in life. And this is not just an answer to you, but to everyone out there who is trying to understand success. Success cannot be put into one word, one line, or one sentence, or one paragraph. It's actually very hard to put success into just the simple word success. It's a lot that goes in to understand your real success as a person. I'll take the next question. And this is, Manisha, you got to answer this question because it is important. She says, I live in a joint family, and even though I'm 19, I'm pampered and treated like a child, which hasn't been much of a problem. However, recently I have realized my incapability in being responsible and handling sensitive situations. For example, recently we have seen few deaths in our family as a result of cancer, heart attacks, etc. In these situations, I was just a horribly awkward background character. What I really want to know is how to handle such situations, how to console the adults around me, and make everybody feel comfortable.
Okay, I'm sorry that there were some losses in the family recently, and you're going through some emotional disturbances. Uh, However, you mentioned that you feel that you're not responsible enough. You thinking this way itself is a sign of responsibility, right? So you being the youngest in the family, like you said, definitely, doesn't mean that you have to be, if you're thinking and feeling that you would like to do something, contribute emotionally to the family, help your elders cope with the losses. The first step of being responsible is already taken by you. So definitely the rest of the steps is that, how you would communicate to them and how you would console a family member, like you said. Now, death is a situation where, most of the times people fall short of words because they really do not know what the other person may be thinking and feeling in a given moment of loss. And us having to say a lot in that moment will definitely not be very, very productive, right? And in some cases can be counterproductive. So we have to really weigh our words when we're talking to someone who's grieving. And to support them, I think being just emotionally there, present for them, just being around, lending your shoulder to them to cry on, I think that is going to be a sign of maturity and responsibility that you can show to your family. And like you said that you're the most pampered person and you're only 19 right now, you still have time. But I would say that that's a wrong notion that you have, that you are not mature enough to be able to handle this situation, because you thinking this way itself is a sign that you are. Okay, so just be there, be around them, support them, ask them how they feel and if they would like to talk. Instead of you talking, you saying a lot at this time, let them vent it out, be the listening ear, and the shoulder to cry on, and that would be more helpful right now.
I mean, I really agree with you, Manisha. And at times like this, where you're confused about how to react, your words might not be required, but your actions might. So it is important on you being around and sitting with them and lending an ear to listen to what they are saying and sobbing about, rather than trying to add more to your situation, because you may not be able to. You're still learning. Being 19, you still do not know how to react to such situations because you may not have been exposed to such situations quite often. So it is important for you to just be around, be there, and show your presence there, because that makes a big difference. Trust us. I mean, with experience, we are telling you this. You thinking about it is itself a great sign that you're wanting to take that responsibility. We are so proud of. It's just that you got to be around there for your elders and console them. The next question says, being an engineering student is cool, But being an engineering student is not that easy. I'm an average student, but the people with me always say that I have a great skill and good knowledge, but I never scored more than 60% till now. They say that I have a great communication skill, but I'll be numb when I meet someone higher. Manisha, with your permission, I would really want to take this.
Definitely, sir. I'm sure you'll be able to help in this one.
Yes. So let me just explain you that 60% or even 80% or 90% is not the caliber of your real skill. I'm saying this and I'm repeating this. Marks, percentage, your score you get in an exam are not the uh, measure of your success or measure of your capability or ability. These are all things that are there for a purpose, and they might be solving that purpose of selecting you for something else. But when you are going through this, when you are an engineering student, it is important for you to feel confident about what you're doing. For example, I've never scored more than 65% in my engineering. I was somewhere around 58 to 59% until I stepped into my final year. That's when my father was quite critical about it, and he said, "I'm sure you wouldn't be getting a first class in your engineering. Forget about distinction." So that sort of put me into a tight spot, and I've taken it as a challenge. And I've put in a lot of effort in my final year to cross that 60% mark, and I've barely managed 64%. But that didn't stop me in life to achieve what I really wanted to achieve. So marks should not be your caliber of the skill that you possess. So you're already awesome. When people say that you're confident, when people say that you have got a great skill, they really do. They cannot just fake on your face just for the sake of saying things. If they're saying it, it means you've got some skill. It means you've got a good knowledge around things. But that necessarily might not be translating into a percentage or marks. That is absolutely okay. Do not belittle yourself, because not every person who is intelligent might be good at scoring marks. They are two different ball games. You should not be putting yourself into a tight spot because of this. And your second point says that you are being numb when you are communicating. Even I feel numb today, even after talking to thousands of people in my career and setting up company and talking to you on a live call. Every call for me is a new experience. Every opportunity for me to talk will give me shivers before I start talking. So it is okay to feel numb. The fact that you're realizing that you're feeling numb in itself is going to help you, because you'll take more measures. You'll identify more ways to come out of it. Practice before a mirror, or talk to more people, or be on calls like this and try to take an opportunity to talk to someone. Manisha, please add, because you are the expert here.
Yeah, because I could also relate to this question, because I have again been a very average student, and so definitely not the brightest of the one, but I was yet very popular in school, for not bad reasons, of course. So the thing is that, we need to identify that what is our strength, and we need to use that. Like, when you're talking about communication, I personally have difficulty communicating. That's why I don't, usually make, this is, I think, the first effort, or the second effort I'm making to, communicate live with people on these video sessions. I've delivered a few talks, and every time I've been absolutely nervous before starting, and even initially, right? And I've also felt that, when I'm talking, sometimes I'm not really communicating that well. So even if that is the case with you, I would say that there are definitely other ways of communicating. So your communication will not be limited to that. So mostly people say that, so when I have to put across something very, difficult across to somebody in the family, I always use the mode of writing. So I write, and then they say, "Oh, you write very well." And so I always feel that I'm better, to express, better in expressing myself through writing, instead of talking, because like I'm doing right now, I end up probably sometimes feeling, a little awkward when I'm talking. And that happens, right? So if that's happening with you, again, like sir rightly said, that's not what your caliber is all about. Identify what's important, and and what is your strength, and then from there take that forward instead of just focusing on the marks. Because once you are in a profession and you're doing well in life, nobody is, or even if you're not doing well in life, nobody is going to ever ask you your marks, right? So nobody is going to ask you if you are not doing well professionally. Nobody will say how much did you score, like, so even a 90 percenter will sometimes not be doing very well professionally in the real field of job, and even a 50 percenter would be doing extraordinarily well. So one, your marks doesn't define you, and how you're going to be leading the rest of your life, and your qualities are not limited to your marks, because marks are based on certain parameters, and your capability may not fit into just those some number of parameters, right? It could be far wider than that.
He also says, I need a suggestion and a clarity on what I am. You are absolutely a normal person. You do not have any issues or problems, and rather you have already started introspecting yourself. So that is a sign of a growth and a successful career. So keep going. You'll be a very successful man in life, and wish you all the best. So I think I've seen a hand raising earlier from Mr. Oppo or Mr. or Miss Oppo. I haven't got a chance to see if they're still around. If you are around and if you want to talk, please unmute and talk, or else we'll take the next question from the chat. All right. So our last question for the day, I'm sure we are towards the end of our day and we should be able to close this with this. It says, I'm elder in my family, so can I get some tips on how to handle my youngsters and make them work in discipline? Oh my goodness. I'm unable to make them listen to me or my parents. They are spoiling themselves by wasting their time, especially in this crisis period. I and my mom are really worried about them. Can you please help us in any way? Fantastic.
Sure. Okay, so now communicating with the younger ones is, especially in these days, it is a little bit of difficult, because now there is no concept of, okay, I would do as my elders say, right? The kids want to understand why they're doing something, and they want to see the elders also doing something. So the two ways of guiding younger ones, be it your siblings, you need to, one, be an example for them to follow, and secondly, even if you are an example and yet they're not following, perhaps the whole thing is not clicking with them. Okay, it is not making sense to them, right? And perhaps they are also feeling that they are not given a choice. Okay, so if you tell them you have to do this, that means they have no choice. If you tell them that this is, if you do this, this is going to be the result, and if you do that, that is going to be the result of it, and now the choice is yours, what you would like to do. If you say it like that, if you give the power of choice to them, they would be able to make better choices. But only, what traditionally happens is that parents are just saying, padhoge nahi to fail ho jaoge. Well, that's a very limited thing. Padhoge nahi, or if you're not doing something like that, you would actually be losing a lot in life. Okay, so what is the importance of a subject? Let's say, for example, in school most kids were not interested in history, right? And that is because they did not understand the importance history plays in understanding what we are today and how far we can go. So history and economics is pretty interlinked, but I understood it only after I finished my college. So because nobody teaches you that way. So one, you have to be sure of, whatever you're telling to your younger ones, what is the reason, what is the purpose it's going to serve to them, and what is the purpose it's going to serve to the family. And then also tell them the pros and cons and make them have that choice. But again, there's a tricky thing. So if you say padho ya mat padho, so you have to be very careful about padho. Would you like to study for an hour, or you like to study for the whole of the day tomorrow? An hour today or a whole. So give them choices. Even when you're giving choices, give tricky choices, in the sense that they do make the choice of what you want them to do. Okay, so this was the second part. This is an addition to what this person was saying, that if in case suppose you are not able to influence them, try to influence them in specific ways where they feel they are making choices, right? And what you are trying to have them to do, that is also being done.
Thank you, Manisha. Your reference to history reminds me that I used to love history in school, and probably if not taking up engineering, I would have become an archaeologist, understanding or unwinding the history behind all of the archaeological buildings that I would have visited. I mean, I still
Yeah.
love reading history.
I love that too. I mean, I really am fond of going to these older monuments and feeling the feeling that they give. So I'm a very sentient person. So so I'd really like the feel of the old.
Because it reminds me about one of the panels that I was there, and it talks about stimulating interest at a very young age among students to understand their field of interest, so that they are not tagged into or they're not pushed into either an engineering or a medicine. So it is important for both the parents as well as the elders who are looking into them, and the teachers who are at school, to put in those stimulants which will stimulate their interests and which will make them take up those challenges and problem solving capabilities, which will put them towards their choice of interest in the careers. So
Definitely.
hopefully our education system will move towards that direction in trying to put in those stimulants at a very early age.
Right. I think it is already is moving into that direction. Like nowadays, from a younger age, in most schools, they are actually using these kind of methodologies which could guide students better and help them develop interests, multi dimensional interests as well. But to add to this person's thing, also another important point that I missed on saying earlier was that, most important for any younger one to listen to you, most important thing for that is that they need to have confidence in you. So you need to gain that as well. You would need to, be friendly with them, just blend with them at times, be their age, and then put it across to them in subtle ways, gradually, in your plays, in your conversations, in the mischiefs you do with them, right? So become their ally, and then they would be also, and obviously because you the elder one, they would know that you know a little better. So so then they would be able to listen to you better as well.
Yeah, get into their psyche. Thank you, Manisha. Thanks a lot for joining us today. That brings us to the end of the session. And I would want to remind our participants to send through their questions, or also encourage their friends to send through questions to us. If you have a concern, or if you would want to talk about something that is bothering you, please do write to lets.talk@younify.com. We will be able to take those questions anonymously, and we will be able to get the counselors address your issues. Thanks for joining. Stay tuned. Thank you. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.